Psychology and Film Project, El Mariachi. So this movie is a film by Robert Rodriguez. And it's about basically this town on the south side of the border, Ciudad Acuña, about cartel violence and an innocent mariachi. But what we're going to be focusing on is the character El Moco. El Moco, he's an outsider, but he's a cartel boss in the region. In the past, when he came in, he partnered with Azul, a local guy, but eventually he betrayed him and put him in jail and stole all his money to become where he is today. And today he has at a position of all power in Ciudad Acuña. Additionally, with all this power, he also now pursues this local girl named Domino. And even though Domino rejects Moco many times, he will always give her gifts in hopes that she'll come to him one day. So what is Moco? Moco displays many symptoms that are very evident, that align with the cluster B personality disorders, and more specifically, narcissistic personality disorder. Now, what is that? So NPD is a pervasive pattern of grandiosity, need for admiration, and lack of empathy. And what are the symptoms accompanying with that? According to the DSM-5, there are 9 symptoms that go with NPD, but you have to have at least 5 to be diagnosed. Today, Moco prominently displays at least symptoms 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But we're going to be focusing on symptoms 2 and 7. Symptom 2 is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. Moco is very preoccupied with the fantasy of success. He'll go through, he betrayed Azul to fulfill that fantasy of success, and, he'll go through any means possible to maintain that success. Additionally, a much more powerful one that drives him in the modern setting is that fantasy for an ideal love. Moco has many women around him at all times to groom him and make him, perfect. But despite that, he still wants this ideal love of Domino and will do anything to get her and hopes that one day she'll come to him. Symptom 7 lacks empathy. So this one is very prominent in Moco. So Moco has no problem with deceiving, killing, or exploiting people, especially Azul. He explored Azul at the beginning, and then near the end, he called him up and told him that he was going to get him out of prison, but instead he sent assassins to kill him. Additionally, with his ideal of Domino, when he found out that Domino was actually seeing someone else, he killed her on the spot. This just goes to show his lack of empathy. And also, he treats his workers with mass disrespect, and will constantly light matches on their faces and stuff. So yeah, he overall lacks empathy. Now, what's the missing symptom? The missing symptom is that he does not display really any envy or feelings that other people envy him at all. But despite this, Moco still passes all 5 tests from the DSM-5 list. Additionally, what really cements this diagnosis is his dysregulation over these symptoms and their control of his life. But how does culture relate to NPD and Moco? So Moco exists in a very specific culture. That's the culture of, the border and cartels. It's a very violent and ruthless culture. Moco is an outsider. So when he came into the city, most everyone there is poor, and he would not have much of a chance. Therefore, that environment probably led him to have to use those symptoms of NPD to be successful and to actually survive. That includes the lack of empathy and the ruthlessness that allowed him to come up in the ranks. But how does this culture also affect his treatment? So one of the biggest things is that in his microculture of the cartel world, he probably would have been seen as very normal. Even though he's a ruthless boss that was seen as normal in the cartel world, but in the broader scope of, so he probably wouldn't receive much treatment or anything there, but in the broader scope of Mexico, he probably still would receive treatment. Even though for some reason among Mexicans, there's less NPD than among Caucasian Americans, it is still prevalent. And even if maybe a therapist wasn't as, familiar with it, they would probably still be able to deal with it. That being said, though, how do other parts of the culture affect his treatment? So there are a lot of social stigmas to NPD, especially in the United States. If no one really would ever want to admit that they have NPD, and narcissism is very commonly used as an insult. This creates really large feelings of guilt and shame among people who try to seek treatment and try to go through this. So what about his treatment plan? So because of the aforementioned guilt and shame, the first part of his treatment plan would be psychoeducation. This would, teach him about what NPD is, and to help kind of break down that barrier of the stigma and help him receive treatment better. The second part is psychoanalysis. Now, psychoanalysis can be seen as very slow and inefficient, but that's actually very ideal for Moco's case, because that slowness and that, building a relationship with the therapist is ideal for Moco, so that he can, throughout time, go and see what the symptoms he displays and hopefully change them over time. In a broader perspective, what does this film do? So this film very accurately displays a case of NPD. Moco agrees with nearly all 9 symptoms of NPD, with exception of envy, but still, he's still a very good case of NPD. But what about, how does this influence our perception of NPD? So it really kind of goes to show how, people, how people with this disorder can sometimes be very successful in life due to the associated things, but nevertheless, there's also that other side, the betrayal, the murder, and the lack of love, really, and empathy that has a large impact on them, a large negative impact. So we have to keep in mind that even though someone might look like they're doing okay, that there could be hidden, harms that are happening to them.